Well, when you're out there surfing, what goes through your head when you finally paddle out there and you're catching that first wave? Do you go in the morning or
nothing goes through your head except what you're doing right then. It's just like you're just totally in the moment.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about like. I mean, while you're sitting there waiting for a wave, you've got plenty of time to think about shit. But when you're actually going for one, and I think that's the way it is with like kind of a lot of, I guess athletic endeavors.
Yeah.
I'm sure like someone who like goes rock climbing tell you the same thing. You cannot fucking afford to be thinking about
anything else except
your bills or whatever when you're like trying to just not fall off this cliffside.
Well, is that also apply to music, where if you were in the midst of a show, that if you thought about something else, you might lose where you're at in the show? I mean,
generally, yeah. Sometimes, unfortunately, your mind drifts. I think it kind of tends to happen more in practice.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
I don't know. I was thinking about.
What do you think about
But usually in like a really good show, you're just there and in the zone the whole time. You're not thinking about. I mean, sometimes my biggest mistake when we play is like kind of like getting ahead of myself and going like, okay, what happens in the next song?
Yeah.
Like looking at the set list and going like, okay, that one might be a new one, and I got to kind of remember and think about it. And then like we're doing like You Got It or something we've played like 1,000,000 times, and like all of a sudden I'm fucking it up.
Do you follow what goes on in the world these days? I guess I mentioned that because there's all this chatter about North Korea and missiles and everything, and it's like
it's hard to be completely oblivious to that.
Well, the idea being that like they're always like, oh, the first place they're gonna hit's the West Coast, and I'm like, well, geez, come on, like people need to.
They're threatening Guam.
Yeah. I mean, are you optimistic about the future?
I'm optimistic. Well, I think generally right now, not so much, but in the long run, yeah. I think the president is a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
And he's doing all the wrong things. And he doesn't even understand what he's doing. He's just a bunch of bluster, and he's like a fragile ego. And
well, the White House is.
I mean, if you read the transcript of the phone call that he had with the Australian Prime Minister.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, he can't even fucking grasp the reason why they're not letting people who come by boats into Australia. He's a fucking moron.
Well, it's almost like the White House.
He doesn't have like the attention span or the calmness and the coolness that's needed for that position, and he's just. And the funny thing to me is he's all like, people were laughing at our country. They will no longer be laughing at us. Like, now more than ever, people are laughing at the country because we voted for him.
Well, it's like
when I say we, I mean the grander.
Well, it's like the White House is a TV show now.
And I was reading this thing the other day where like all these like foreign ministers or whatnot are just like he's so obsessed with Obama. All he wants to do is if you tell him what Obama did or stood for, he just will do the opposite.
Yeah.
It's just a fucking retard reaction.
Do you see any? I mean, obviously with the long term, when we look at history, nothing's the same, everything's the same. Usually the social issues tend to be the same. But do you see in your everyday interactions hope?
My everyday interactions with what?
I guess just in your own backyard, I mean, if you can't make, I guess if one person, John Q. Public, can't make a world impact, at least they can make an impact in their own backyard.
I mean, I'm very happy to live in Seattle.
Yeah. Well, my
I mean, we just had like a mayor's race where there were like 21 candidates, and I mean, they had a debate of like 8 of them or something like that. 8, and every one of them was like totally insanely liberal and progressive. And there's, you know, like kind of there's one woman who she's sort of like has raised the most money and has more like kind of like the local business community backing her, but she's still like really, really, really progressive and liberal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She'll just be a little bit more friendly to developers who are, you know, who are kind of behind like the incredible rising rents of this town. But I mean, that has a lot more to do with, I mean, I don't know what to do with about that. That has a lot more to do with just kind of like the job landscape here has changed so much that, like, you know, people are getting these high-paying tech jobs and they want to live downtown or close to it, and it's squeezing the people out who've, you know, lived here for a long time. Like, there's areas that, you know, like the black parts of towns are like getting totally gentrified.
Yeah.
You know, it's like like 23rd and Union, which was, you know, not even that long ago, maybe like 10 or 15 years ago, was like a really, really gnarly corner.
I mean, I live in the Asheville area, and that's a city that's in the, not population-wise, but in how much it's changed in gentrification. I mean,
Asheville's awesome.
It's a fantastic city. You guys need to get back down here. It's been a couple of years, by the way.
Well, we played that Harvest Records thing, right?
Yeah, and I think you played the Great
That was
Eagle.
the only time. That was the first time we've ever been to Asheville. And we had such a great time there. Went to the Moog factory the next day.
Yep.
It was such a cool town.
Well, get on back over here. We'd love to have you guys. But my last question is, what is a life performing and creating music and traveling the world and interacting with people? What has that taught you about what it means to be a human being?
I don't know. You know, you hear stories. There's people who do that who are terrible human beings.
Yeah.
You know, who just get kind of like sucked up into their own assholes, and, you know, think like a little bit of like fame and praise and adulation means something. I think the most important thing is just try to kind of keep things in perspective. And
yeah. Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where, I guess, like with the platform that you've created, that you've been able to not only see a lot, but also make sense of a lot. Hopefully, I guess. But
I'm trying to make sense of a lot. Yeah. You know, trying to make sense of what's going on.
Well, I thank you so much.
As we all are, you know, that's not just limited people who do, you know, or musicians or like are involved in so-called creative endeavors. I mean, I think like people, you know, everyone's trying to make sense of it. Some people are just doing it poorly.
Yeah. Agreed.